Anyone who's taken a standardized test has used this. Contrary to popular belief, a pencil core isn't made from lead. It's made from a powdered mix of graphite, carbon, and clay. To get things started, a worker loads 750 pounds of ingredients and 300 gallons of water into a giant mixer called the ball mill. Like most of the machines down here, this one has been in use for almost 75 years. Inside the mill, 1,000 pounds of smooth river stones pulverize the mix and grind up all of its chunks. "24 hours later, a worker pumps the thick slurry out of the mixer and into a press that squeezes out most of the water. It takes 2 more days until the slurry hardens into these hexagonal-shaped cakes. The cakes are then dried, crushed, and packed into 5-gallon canisters before it's time for the extrusion machine to create the pencil core. First, a large metal arm begins to slowly push into the back of the canister, much like a caulk gun. The arm forces the mixture out of a small hole at the other end of the canister, where it emerges as a core and drops onto a rotating wheel. 2 fixed blades trim the cores to exactly 7 inches. Then the wheel drops the cores onto a conveyor belt. The moist cores end up in these metal drying cans and then spin on this wheel to dry. Then workers place the cores into a furnace, where they'll bake for about 5 hours at 1,700 degrees Fahrenheit. Now it's time for the cores to head upstairs, where they're about to become part of a cedar sandwich. And later, we've just seen what it takes to make a pencil core. Now we'll see how they make the rest of the pencil. Here at General Pencil, the shells for wood pencils start off as slats of Pacific Coast cedar. Cedar is known for its straight grain, which allows for smoother sharpening. Some say it smells good too. The stacks of slats head for the groover. This machine uses 8 rotating blades to carve out 8 evenly spaced grooves, and ultimately 8 individual pencils. Next, a worker loads the groove slats into a machine called the gluer. This machine applies a thin layer of glue to each of the 8 grooves. Now it's time to add the pencil cores. First, the cores are loaded into a hopper, which feeds them into a rolling wheel. As the slats move under the wheel, the cores fall into the grooves. Then, this machine flips another groove slat on top of the first, creating a cedar sandwich around the pencil cores. A machine stacks the sandwiches at the end of the line, and workers clamp them together to dry for 24 hours. So how do these cedar sandwiches become individual pencils? That's the job of the shaper. This machine has a cylinder with 2 identical blades that rotate 10,000 times per minute. As the sandwich passes over the cylinder, the blades make 8 sharp cuts into the bottom of the wood. When the sandwich passes under the cylinder, the blades make the identical number of cuts on the other side. This is the cut that divides the sandwich into 8 separate pencils. Now that the pencil bodies are complete, it's time to paint them their signature color. The origins of the yellow pencil date back to the 1890s, when American pencil makers used Chinese graphite. They promoted the fact by painting their pencils yellow, an ancient Chinese symbol of royalty. A loader pushes them through a paint-filled washer and out onto a conveyor belt. Today, they use a non-toxic lacquer paint, but the old paint used to give off dangerous fumes. That's why they put the paint department up on the top floor, to avoid poisoning the rest of the factory. The length of the conveyor belt gives the pencils just enough time to dry before they're put through the process all over again. A pencil can receive as many as 5 coats of paint before leaving this room. Next, the pencils move to an area called the finishing department. Here, a stamping machine prints the pencil's name and degree of hardness. A loader pushes the pencils under a roll of tinted foil, where a hot stamper presses the foil against the pencil and leaves the lettering behind. It takes a second or less for each pencil to be stamped. But what do the numbers mean? It's a code. The higher the number, the harder the core. The number 2 pencil is hard enough to reduce smudging, but dark enough to be seen by optical test equipment. Now it's time to add the finishing touches at a machine called the tipper. This is a vat full of ferrules, the small brass rings that attach the eraser to the pencil. The vat rotates and feeds the ferrules down a short track and into the tipper, which affixes them onto the ends of the pencils. These should look familiar. This vat moves rubber erasers up into tubes and feeds them into a second tipper. These steel needle pincers then crimp the ferrules, securing the eraser to the pencil. And the pencils are ready to come off the line. If you think that the pencil has gone out of style, statistics prove it's here to stay. Due to the popularity of Sudoku and other puzzle games, sales of pencils jumped a staggering 700%. Now that's a figure you can write home about.